Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast Scone episode Trace. Appreciate everybody who has watched, who's shared, who's commented. And as I've mentioned from the beginning, if y'all have suggestions, please share them. As a matter of fact, implementing one right now, recording this instead of going YouTube live. The idea initially with YouTube live was allow you all to interact. As the audience builds, maybe we'll get back to that. But what I'm seeing is fewer people watching live, more as the audience builds throughout the day after we post the video. So we'll do it this way for now. And if you have suggestions, comments, please interact and let me know how I can make this better. So a couple of things that I want to talk about here this morning. If the of course, being in Baton Rouge and covering sports mostly in Louisiana and the Southeast, if the LSU head football coach gives an interview somewhere, I'm going to listen to it. He's a newsmaker in my world, probably the biggest newsmaker. So when Ed Orgeron gives an interview in Birmingham on WJOX, Jocks FM, I'm going to listen to it. For those that don't know, Jocks is a heritage sports talk radio station in the Southeast. They're based out of Birmingham. That's where Paul Feinbaum was before he left for the SEC network. So big station. So I totally understand. If you're Ed Orgeron and you can go on Jocks, you go on that station. So he did yesterday and gave an interview. So I went back and listened to it, mostly because I started to see headlines that Ed Orgeron took a subtle shot at Matt Canada, or Ed Orgeron throws shade at Matt Canada. So I'll read one right here from MSN. Ed Orgeron takes subtle shots at former OC Matt Canada. Saturday Down South did the same thing. Gridiron Now, who I contribute to, also said that Ed Orgeron throws shade at Matt Canada. So I'm thinking, what could Ed have said, truthfully? Because if you understand, the terms of the separation agreement was that the two sides wouldn't speak ill at each other. So I was interested. So I went back and I actually listened to the full interview on WJOX, on Jocks FM. And it's so disappointing because this clickbait, lazy journalism is plaguing our industry, and it's every day. And I'm actually starting to think of making this a daily segment on the show where I just call out lazy writers and reporters for doing awful things like this. The question to Ed Orgeron on Jocks, just so you have context, was how's the starting quarterback battle going, and what is the offense going to look like? And Ed said what he said to everybody is that the quarterback battle's dead even among the three quarterbacks. And when he was answering the question about the offense and what it's going to look like, he gave a very literal answer. He said, we're going to be mostly three wide receivers, sometimes four, sometimes five. We'll have less motions and shifts. We'll go 41 personnel because we're LSU and we have to pound the ball when we need to. And so I keep waiting for the comment about Canada, and it comes back to literally where he said, we're going to have less motions and shifts. That's not throwing shade. That's not an insult. It's a statement of fact. And for some, this will probably come across as me just like defending the LSU coach, which is sad because if you know me and my stance on things, that's probably not exactly what I would be doing. But this, sometimes you have to understand, and I don't mind as a member of the media educating you, the audience, on how our industry works because you all consume it, and you know far more than maybe you know on its face just because like you listen to radio, you watch YouTube videos, you watch television, you consume podcasts, you consume a ton of media, so you're familiar with much more than maybe you know as far as industry lingo would go. But when you look at all those websites, the way that they monetize themselves is at a cost per thousand. That's per thousand clicks. So for them, you hear the term clickbait, it's all about page views. And when you've got a medium like Twitter, where you've got hundreds of millions of people on Twitter, and if you follow thousands on Twitter, like I do, your feed is always cluttered. It's just the average tweet populates for about 20 minutes. If 20 minutes has passed, you could tweet the same thing again. The majority of your Twitter followers would have never seen the first one. So if you're all these websites and you're trying to drive traffic to your website so you can monetize it, what headline is going to grab more attention? Ed Orgeron discusses spring practice, or Ed Orgeron throws shade at Matt Canada? Well, it's obvious. What's going to get your attention? What's going to get you to click that button? And that's what these websites do. And I hate it because it's lazy, and it's lacks integrity, and it's unfair to the subject. In my opinion, I don't consider myself a journalist. I'm a talk show host. I give opinions. I don't report facts. I give opinions. But I can do that with a degree of journalistic integrity. The way that this is done now, it's all just fighting for your attention. And it's so disappointing to me. It happened yesterday as well with Derrius Guice. There was a guy named Dan Hatman. I don't know who Dan Hatman is, and you probably don't either. But Dan Hatman has a blue check next to his name on Twitter. And if you read his Twitter bio, it says Director of Scouting Development for the Scout Academy, worked for the Eagles, Jets, Giants, love objective analysis of subjective data. Well, Dan Hatman tweets yesterday, the texts are coming in on this one, and it sounds like off-field will be more of an issue for Guice than I originally thought. We talked about this yesterday on AFR, so you may have heard me rail on this guy. But to Derrius Guice's credit, he replies to this guy, I have 0, all caps, off the field issue. Well, a couple of minutes later, Dan Hatman starts to backpedal because LSU fans started dogpiling on him. And what he says is, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just passing along what I'm told. But that's what's lazy about it. You're just passing along what you're told. How about you do some legwork and investigate whether or not that's really an issue? Whether or not before you maim somebody's character in front of 11.7 thousand of his Twitter followers, you make sure you got the story straight. And you could say 11.7 thousand followers isn't a big deal. I'm tell you what, when that starts to get retweeted more and more, when that starts to multiply exponentially the way social media does, it is a big deal. You can say 11,000 followers. There are some newspapers in our country that don't have 11,000 subscribers. So you can look at yourself and say, oh, I'm just a director of scouting. I'm not a media member. You're on social media. You got that blue check. You have an audience. You are a media member. We all owe it to ourselves to be more responsible than that, man. I know I rant on this a lot, but it's something that irks me so much to see that degree of irresponsibility and laziness in our industry. My point on ranting on it is in hopes to let you understand what's happening in the industry, because what these people are doing is they're trying to manipulate you for clicks. Just be careful and recognize that when you see it. So LSU football is off for spring break. They actually return to practice on Sunday on Easter. So they'll be back on the practice field. They'll continue their search for a quarterback. But it's going to be Miles Brennan. I think we all know that. But we'll talk about more about that as spring moves along, and certainly as we get closer to fall practice. The other thing that I wanted to talk about today is the LSU baseball series tonight, which starts tonight against Mississippi State. By the way, I love the Thursday, Friday, Saturday series that the SEC implemented. And this was in part because of the SEC network. They were trying to get a TV window on Thursday night for the SEC network. But what it's done is it's given you a primetime Thursday night baseball game, generally among two really good teams. And so I like that. I like having something like that to watch on a Thursday night. And so LSU, Mississippi State, this is a Mississippi State team that has struggled out the gate, y'all. And, of course, we all know about Andy Cannizaro and what happened there. And right now they're at 500 overall. They're sub 500 in the SEC, and they've had a rough go of things. The one thing that Mississippi State has going for it really, really well and strongly is Connor Pilkington. He's their ace. He's a lefty. He's going to pitch tonight against Zach Hess. And Pilkington ain't no joke. And for this LSU baseball team, which has struggled to hit left-handed pitching, to face not only a lefty but a legit ace tonight, it's a big spot for LSU. And I don't think that LSU, with their injuries next week, is going to go on the road and win a series in College Station. But this week at home against Mississippi State, and then in 2 weeks at home against Tennessee, that's where you make up ground. That's where the schedule makers did you favors. So, in my opinion, this series and the Tennessee series, you have to sweep one of them. and you got to take 2 out of 3 in the other. If LSU wins tonight against Mississippi State, they got a great shot to sweep this series. The thing you got to look for, number one, can Zach Hess extend deep into a ball game? It's the one thing about Hess that he's struggling with as a starter. It's the understanding that you don't have to strike out every hitter you face. It's okay to throw a 91-mile-an-hour fastball low and away and induce a ground ball to the left side and let your defense back you up. But Hess is trying to make the perfect pitch every time he throws the ball to try to get the strikeout. And what that's done is it's run up his pitch count. So let's see if Zach Hess can extend deep into the ball game tonight, give the bullpen a break as they take on Pilkington. Let's see if the offense can get off against a really good lefty and get the series off to a good start. That's going to do it for Breakfast Scone, Episode 3. Please share this, subscribe, tell all of your friends. It's a great way to start your morning or at whatever point in the day you might listen to this. As always, feedback very much appreciated on what I discuss, something you might want me to discuss, how we execute this. Just let me know. I'm going to sign off because you might hear my 3-year-old is outside my office now, and he wants me probably to go watch Mickey Mouse Clubhouse with him. So y'all have a great day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.